What's up, people? We are back with more of Eden. Currently, Ryou is standing in the shooting range again, probably trying to blow off some steam because I'm pretty sure he's planning something, right? Let's see what it is. How many minutes had I spent looking at this target now? My finger resting on the trigger would not move for me. Human targets were the only ones I ever hesitated with after I entered the military, and that stopped after the second or third target. If I didn't shoot, I would be shot. I understood that much. I understood that much faster than the other new recruits. After that, I just shot, and shot some more. I shot my enemies as they appeared, ran away when I was being shot at, turned around, and shot them when they stopped shooting. It was a series of events that I repeated endlessly. As I piled on the sins, no longer lamenting over those who lost their lives, my human heart slowly but surely faded into the shadows. My memories of her felt like they were disappearing with each pull of the trigger. Still, I could not stop. I didn't even think of stopping, but because I ended up remembering my sister, and because I happened to meet those two, Sion and Alicia, I had never so much as considered something as naive as being able to redo my past. But if I were to rescue those two lonely girls, then maybe... The girl in the military uniform was quite irritated. It only got worse since she didn't have anyone to vent her frustrations on. "Hey, warrant officer!" Inaba's voice was a little agitated. He had been sitting at his desk and was looking over some documents. "Huh? Yes. What's wrong? You barged into my office first thing in the morning and now you're making that scary face? Did I do something wrong? Do I really have that scary look on my face?" You do. Now how about you relax and have a drink? There's no reason for me to drink. Levi glared at her sloppy commanding officer. "Major, surely drinking is not the first thing you do every morning." "I assure you drinking is not the first thing. Usually." "I think you drink a little too much, Major. You'll die young." "You really are in a bad mood. What's wrong?" "Nothing really." Levi turned away in a huff. She wondered why she was here in the first place and could not fathom why she was behaving so poorly. All she wanted was to not be holed up in a room, nor be somewhere she might accidentally run into a certain someone. "Hey, Major, could I talk to you for a while?" "I don't mind. I have an appointment in a bit, but I'll just listen until then." Levi briefly cast her eyes downward and hesitated for a moment before speaking out. "I don't really know my father." "Father? Your father was a police officer, if I recall correctly." Levi nodded slightly. A public safety detective, apparently. He was almost never home, and on the rare occasion he was, all he did was eat, sleep, rave, and repeat. He was tight-lipped, hardly ever smiled, and I remember being a little scared of him as a child. I never tried to talk to him, and sometimes just watched him as he left. As far as I was concerned, he wasn't a part of my life. I believed that my quiet life with my mother and sister would go on forever in that peaceful city. Inaba gazed at Levi's face, which was neither serious nor impassive, without interrupting. Although she was a little embarrassed, she continued to tell her story. "But one day, my father died, and everything changed. On his way home from work, he was shot in the back of the head. I heard he died instantly. It wasn't shocking that he had lots of enemies in his line of work, but the offender has never been caught. I'm sure he never will be. This happened 8 years ago. Organizations opposed to emigrating were still running amok like wildfire back then, huh? I'm sure being a public safety officer was a dangerous line of work. Strangely enough, I didn't hate whoever killed him all that much. Dad had no doubt knew it might end that way. The fact he was a detective, the fact he was killed, neither mattered. Dad died. That's all there was to it. You weren't sad? Levi's eyes grew wide as she was momentarily surprised by the Major's question, but her unrest passed like a gentle breeze and her eyes turned to normal. My mother and sister both cried, but I'm probably broken in some way, not shedding a single tear for a parent's death, deciding to enlist into the military shortly after that. Neither made any sense. Granted, Dad may have left behind some money, but my sister was still little and my mother was a shut-in. It felt like I had to do something. The military had practically no age limit and paid a monthly salary. It seemed like a calling for someone as physically and mentally gifted as me. So you say, but it couldn't have been easy on you. The military was tossing new recruitments onto the front lines without sufficient training, one after the other, around the time you enlisted. Well, I guess. I figured I'd be stuck doing accounting or office work at the rear, so it came as a shock when I was suddenly sent to the front lines. She quietly turned her gaze downward. The memories from when she had first enlisted were something she wanted to forget. There were far too many painful memories for a girl as young as she was at that time. Still, she knew it was because of those moments in her life that she became who she was today. And that was also how she met a certain young man. At this point, I think I may have been searching for a father figure. Of course, I imagined finding one was unlikely. Straddling the line between life and death, just like your father did. Do you hope to gain something from that? I believe so. If I don't believe it, then my whole life would be meaningless. Does it really matter? Huh? Inaba stood and walked to her side. Levi, you've got a long life ahead of you. Worry about whether you're beyond saving when you get old. If you're young, or if your youth were to end, while you're busy thinking about pointless things and worrying yourself to death, wouldn't that be miserable? Is that the voice of experience talking? What was that, you little brat? Major Inaba lightly tapped on her head with the back of his hand. Yeah, a lot's happened to me too. A whole lot. Major. Levi couldn't say any more. She vaguely sensed that something sad had occurred in Inaba's past, but Levi also knew that she had no right to ask about it. Everyone lived with their own little demons hidden in their hearts. It might just be those little thoughts you cannot tell others that become a driving force to living. That was what Levi thought. So, how about it? Since we both had a lot happen to us, want to try comforting each other? What the hell is he asking? I'll pass. She took several steps back and glared at her frivolous superior officer. That's too bad. Inaba said rather seriously and returned to his seat. I guess getting rejected is a good sign to get back to work, huh? Please excuse me as well then. Did he seriously just try to hit on Levi? Like, oh, we're both depressed, you know what we can do? No. Wait a second. Huh? Levi stopped mid-salute. Could you stay on here on standby for a little while? My shift starts in the afternoon, so I don't mind. Is your appointment another one of those? Let's just say you're not far off. It's probably Ryou, right? Of course, they were referring to the elimination and disposal of infiltrators within the research facility. Levi's mind grew tense. In that case, why would you need me here? Did you give it to Warrant Officer Haruna? No, not Warrant Officer Haruna. I sent a different group. The circumstances are a little different this time. Not disposal, but rather detainment. Who exactly? After making a brooding gesture, Inaba's mouth curved to a sad grin. He tightly clenched his fist as he spoke. An adorable maid. What? Alicia? No, she's innocent. What? You are under arrest! It was a morning like any other. After finally getting Sion out of bed with some mild difficulties and brushing her hair, Alicia brought Sion her breakfast before getting the laundry and finally leaving the room. An ordinary morning. The usual routines. So then why did these soldiers stop her in the middle of her duties? Alicia tilted her head. Arrest? Yes, we are here to restrain you. 3 soldiers stood in Alicia's way. They were dressed in their field gear, complete with rifles hung over their shoulders. Alicia stared at the 3 of them a while with her head still tilted, then finally understood what they were after. My, by restraint, do you mean bondage? What? I regret to inform you, but it is not one of my hobbies. Oh, Alicia, we aren't joking. The soldiers who appeared to be the commander said with a troubled looking look on his face. We don't intend to be rough with you. Could you please come with us? What shall I do? Alicia set the basket of laundry on the floor and took on a natural brooding pose. She took things at her own pace as usual. Please, Alicia, we aren't doing this because we want to. Surely the Major won't treat you badly, so... By the way, what am I being charged with? It has been confirmed that you have been conducting unauthorized communications with an external party. As it appears to be concerning Sion, there is the possibility this will be considered treason as well. My, that sounds pretty serious. Those are the seeds you've sown. Since you've leaked information to the outside, it may be difficult for Major Inaba to work this out internally. My, he may be the commanding officer of the facility, but I guess he is still just another sorry field officer in the end. Don't you understand? We're not joking around. I understand. I'm just teasing you. How can she still act like this in such a serious situation? Alicia. I completely forgot. The Major is someone I must not let my guard down around. A sweet smile rose across Alicia's face. You are all far too soft compared to the Major. You were told to restrain me. Why are you acting so gutless? Alicia, what are you? I am disobeying you, she says with probably the cutest voice ever. Oh god. Her long skirt fluttered lightly through the air. And at the same time, the slender fist sunk into the back of the soldier's hand which held the rifle. Gah! The soldier cried out and dropped his rifle. Holy crap, Alicia! Alicia took another step, stomped her foot into the carpet, and spun around and drove her elbow like an arrow into the pit of the man's stomach. He frothed at the mouth, and the pitiful soldier collapsed as his eyes rolled up into his head. Ah! Resistance is... The 2 soldiers panicked and quickly pointed their rifles towards the girl. Alicia laughed quietly. Holy crap, she's so badass. Look at this, look at her eyes. They reacted late to this unexpected situation. Far too late. The girl sneered at the soldiers who were supposed to be professionals at combat. She kicked away the barrels of the gun pointed at her and swung her leg again no sooner than it had touched the ground. Bam! Oh! Her skirt flipped up to risque level, or risque, yet the soldier let out a cry of neither surprise nor pleasure. Bam! Alicia's long, limber leg extended, and her heel sunk into the soldier's jaw before he finished his scream. Without looking at the fallen soldiers, Alicia giggled as she turned to face the last one standing. How can you look so cute in a situation like this? Oh, Alicia-chan. Friendly fire was a concern in such close quarters, so he could not easily fire on her. They should have just sent an entire platoon, or perhaps sent more skilled soldiers if they truly wanted to restrain her. Then again, Major Inaba likely didn't consider that a maid would resist, much less that she would overpower his subordinates. Is something the matter? Will you not shoot? Doing this will get you nowhere! I am simply pushing my plan ahead of schedule. I should manage somehow. Plan? What plan? Right now, you should worry more about yourself. Will you call for backup? Are you waiting for someone to pass by? I do not mind either way. The lone remaining soldier could only tremble like a new recruit before the grinning, looming girl. What happened to these guys? They had conveniently collapsed right where there was a blind spot in the surveillance network. 3 soldiers were piled on top of one another. I recognized their faces, but couldn't recall their names. They all appeared to be alive. Going out of my way to check for breathing and pulses were unnecessary. They didn't seem to be bleeding either. They had been struck by something, or suffered a surprise attack. For now, I'll suppose I looked that way. I couldn't afford to ignore this. It was certain that some trouble had transpired. As I was about to walk away, I noticed something had been left beside the fallen soldiers. A laundry basket? There was a dress inside. Don't tell me! Ping pong! Huh? At the very moment the answer came to my mind, a boundlessly cheerful voice reached my ears. Alicia-chan! Ping pong! A cheerful and out-of-place voice abruptly resounded through the quiet office. Inaba, who had been looking over the documents, and Levi, who had been staring absent-mindedly out of the window, both snapped their heads up. Let's see, can you all hear me? Everyone in the research facility? Uh-oh, Alicia has taken over. Miss Alicia? Yeah. Inaba nodded, reached for the PC on his desk, and opened a communication channel. As you all may know, I am the maid, Alicia. I am borrowing this internal broadcast because I have something I would like to tell you all this morning. Hey, what happened? What's the Tokita squad doing? He couldn't get through to the squad that was supposed to have apprehended Alicia. If he could hear Alicia's happy-go-lucky voice over the facility speakers, then it was evident something had happened to the squad. I am not a fan of beating around the bush, so I will get straight to the point. You see, in about another 28 minutes, this research facility will explode into smithereens. Whoa! Hey, now is not the time for oh-hos. Speaking of, I just activated the countdown timer for the dynamite buried in the basement. Seeing as how this facility contains extraordinary amounts of valuable data, that very dangerous item was prepared in the event it would fall into enemy hands. How scary! You're the scary one for switching it on. Major, now's not the time for wisecracks. By the way, since I do not know the termination code, there's no longer any way to stop it. I sincerely doubt the code could be cracked in the next 20 minutes either. Looks like it. Inaba sighed as he fiddled with his workstation. He's not even like flustered or he's not even surprised. He's just like, Oh well, can't do anything. She seemed to have outsmarted me. Alright. Only the commanding officer of the facility, Inaba himself, could have activated the device. That's how it should have been, but the emergency shutdown code Inaba knew was not being accepted. The program had apparently been rewritten somehow. I do apologize, but I do not believe you will die if you make it as far as the coastline. If you give it your undivided attention and run with all your might, you should be able to make it to the safety zone with time to spare. Please do try your best. On that note, thank you for listening so attentively. The broadcast ended with a snap. She dropped the microphone peace out. Next fell an indescribable silence. What's this about? She really did it. I never thought they'd let her slip away and this would happen. I didn't see any of this coming. That maid is far more formidable than I thought. She most certainly hasn't lived this long for nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. How are you going to handle this? Everyone's going to take cover, obviously. Inaba immediately opened the comm system and began to advise all squads and personnel within the building to evacuate. That was the one and only thing he, the man in charge, could do. Inaba was concentrating so much on giving direction that he had not noticed Levi had disappeared. I could hear music. That gentle melody, comfortably streaming from the radio, had a somewhat solemn tune to it. It almost sounded like it belonged at a funeral. Was this really for the best? I will think about that later. Right now there is something else I must do. The maid girl smiled sweetly and set the portable terminal on the table. At her feet were the fallen soldiers who were supposed to be guarding Sion. Was that your doing, Alicia? I made sure to apologize right before I hit them, although I am not sure if they heard me. Smiling, she struck her own fist with a pop. It looked like this maid was quite capable of protecting her master. All things considered, you do act quickly, Ryou. You got here first. I'm Shion's guard. It's natural that I would come running to her side. How nice. What is it? When you do as you are told, you never have to think for yourself. You rationalize your actions as being part of your order without worry nor distress, and you are able to refrain from hurting yourself no matter what you do. Since you were ordered, you cannot help it. Even if it is something you do not personally wish to do, all is settled with but a word. Alicia took a deep breath. Are you really satisfied living this kind of life, Ryou Haruna? I am sure you have a will of your own within you. Can you live your own life or your life without... Can you live your life only listening to others and die without any regrets? Can you say for certain that there is such a thing as a life free of regret? I drew my handgun and slowly pointed it at Alicia. What are you doing, Ryou? We were about 3 meters apart. It will be difficult for me to miss at this distance. Alicia, I want to ask for myself. Why do you go to such dangerous lengths for Sion? Throw the soldiers into chaos and use that opportunity to break Sion out of the facility. It was a simple plan, but I couldn't say it had a very high likelihood of success. Sion aside, if the orchestrator were to make any mistake, is that not obvious? I love Sion. Shion's first and final wish. If that girl wants to see the outside world, I will show it to her. That was our promise. A promise we made on a day now in the distant past, which I refuse to break at any cost. So there's no turning back now? Indeed. I alone am the only person in this world who can grant her wish, so I must. The eyes of the girl standing before my muzzle were filled with conviction. The eyes of someone with complete faith that they had made no mistake. Sis. I suspected I had made those very same eyes when I left the place I was born and raised and entered the military. But at some point, the fire in my eyes had grown dull. I stopped focusing on my goal and gave up on thinking for myself. Even if there's nothing left in it for you? I don't need to gain anything from it. If only Sion would smile from the bottom of her heart, that would be enough. I said nothing and lowered my gun. Alicia was just like I once was. She needed nothing. If only the person precious to her, the person she loved, could smile, that was enough. It was the only thing in the world she wished for. I had lost sight of who I was and had forgotten that. Alicia, yes? How well prepared are you, Ryou? Alicia gazed at me and seemed to be sizing me up. This was the first time I sensed any astonishment in her usual cool-headed gaze. This may have been what she was like as a scientist. I think I knew deep down that I would never see my sister again, and that she was dead. So, all that was left for me was to die. I fought and tried to defeat as many enemies as I could. That was the only thing I had left after entering the military. But that's behind me now. If I do not need this life, if I won't use it for my own sake, then I believe I should use it for someone else, to protect the life of someone trying to live. Alicia's eyes, within which dwelled a plethora of intricate colors, closed solemnly. She nodded slightly. You should assume all attempts to disable the self-destruction sequence will be useless. The program was put together by Natsume for use during a breakout. Sis made it? Security was not very strict when Natsume did it. She escaped simply by stealing a helicopter. That's how? Dang. So when she was brought back here, she entrusted the unused program to you? Of course. I had prepared a few other contingencies, but there is not much I can use right away. In other words, you left the rest to chance. Those aren't the very best of odds, Alicia. How much could be done in the remaining 20 minutes? She wouldn't know if she didn't try. She had to try. I know it is quite reckless, but if I were detained, escape would have been impossible. Detained? That damn major was quicker on his feet than I thought. This was my only choice. Alicia forced a smile and held out her hand. But if you were to work with me, the odds of success would increase greatly. Of course, I will not force you. Do as your heart tells you. As my heart tells me. I had already searched my heart. I was sure that was enough. The entire building is in a state of panic. You and Sion might just make it as long as nobody gets in your way. Sion and I can run on our own 2 feet. I held my hand out towards Alicia's as she smiled. Huh? Huh? I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Not sooner than I heard the sound of the air being sliced in the next second. Oh, it's La Vie. Something had sprouted from Alicia's side. No. Something had pierced her. Alicia's eyes went wide as she gazed at the foreign object protruding from her waist. That's as far as you go, Alicia! No! La Vie! A familiar face stood in the doorway and spoke that sinister line with a very short knife in hand. Those were... throwing knives? La Vie! Warrant Officer Haruna, keep quiet! My business is with that maid right now! My... whatever could it be? Alicia cast a sweet smile towards La Vie, who wasn't even trying to hide thirst for blood. La Vie, why have you not escaped yet? I think it would be best if you hurry. I'll escape after I've done all I can. I doubt this is how this will play out. I am well aware you treasure Sion more than anyone else. I wonder if you could actually activate a self-destruction button you can't cancel with no guarantee Sion would be able to get away in time? You can wonder all you like, but that is what happens. Lafie flung her wrist without a moment's hesitation. Ah! The knife flew with tremendous force. Alicia's knees gave out as it pierced deeply into her thigh. No! Alicia-chan! Alicia! Don't move, warrant officer! Before I knew it, Lafie had drawn her favorite survival knife. Alicia, you know the cancellation code. Alternatively, there's the possibility the self-destruction was a bluff. There are a number of technicians here. They should have looked into it by now. You must be aware of their findings, right, Lafie? The system was locked down at the same time the detonation sequence was activated, and it seems they couldn't confirm anything. I'm not so sure we can take what you say at face value. If you do not believe me, then you will just die. You're the one who's going to die. With those words, Lafie prepared her knife. It's fine by me if you really don't know the code. I've got no more use for you. I'll execute you here and now as a traitor. My. Alicia drew her hand to her mouth and smiled elegantly. I am sorry I cannot meet your expectations, but I intend to continue setting the record for oldest Felix. Your avarice will be your downfall, Alicia. That's enough, Lafie. Huh? I said that's enough. Oh my god, look at us. Poor Alicia. 2 knives. Oh my god. I walked up to Alicia's side, bent down and checked the wounds on her flank and thigh. Let's see. The artery on her thigh didn't seem to be severed, but it certainly was bleeding a lot. As far as the knife in the side was concerned, I couldn't tell whether it had reached any internal organs. Still, both knives were in quite deep. It would be far too dangerous to remove them here, where her wounds couldn't be treated. Alicia, can you endure this for a little while? Yes. Alicia nodded feebly, still smiling all the same. How can this girl smile with 2 freaking knives inside of her? It was actually more difficult to watch her endure the pain than it had been writhing from it. Warrant Officer Haruna, what in the world are you thinking? Did the Major order you to kill her? My duty is to protect this facility, to protect Sion. What's wrong with removing any and all who get in the way? Alicia has apparently been in contact with the outside, but there's no real need to make her talk. The military will find those snakes in the grass with some investigating, and then there won't be any need for Alicia. There's also no need to kill her. I stood and took a step towards her. The mood instantly turned tense. Lafie lowered her hips and took a combat stance. I was only told to keep an eye on Alicia, but my duty comes first. This is no concern of yours. I don't want to kill you. The same goes for me. But if I have to, how stupid. Lafie swapped to an underhanded grip and slowly closed the distance between us. We're gonna have to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. I know it's probably during like a really exciting moment and near the climax, but that's what a cliffhanger is for, right? So, holy crap, Lafie, what are you doing? She's just like a mindless robot. Well, not robot, but like warrior. That's like, Sion is in danger, even though she has no real clue what is really going on, and then she's like, have to kill who's supposedly the threat, and she tries to kill Alicia-chan. Well, more action in the next video, so once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you then. Peace!